As we know, the role of the United States in foreign policy has expanded in recent years. Some of these policies, like the Marshall Plan, have received praise from the international community, while other policies like the war in Iraq and the U.S.'s support for Israel have received condemnation in the international community. Interestingly enough, the region of the United States that has influenced the foreign policy the greatest is one that would surprise many people: the South. More than any other region, the South has had the greatest influence when it comes to our nation's military. A 2005 study showed that 35% of active-duty military came from the South, and another study showed that the South was overly represented in the military's officer corps. In 2005, a study showed that 38% of the troops that died in Iraq were Southern, and in Afghanistan it was 47%. Much of this is not surprising, considering that the South is known for having a strong military tradition. The reason for this is due to the fact that many Celts settled in the South. The nation of Scotland itself was formed due to war, and the Irish were in constant warfare with the English. Many Southerners are proud of the South's military tradition, and as a result, have contributed greatly to the idea of American exceptionalism. What has also happened as a result of this military tradition is that Southerners have taken more hawkish positions on defense issues. Peace Action, an anti-war and nuclear weapons group, gave many Southern senators of the 111th Congress a score of 0%. What should also be noted is that many Southern congressmen have been in the driving seat when it comes to influencing America's foreign policy. As of now, 4 out of the 7 subcommittees of the House Committee of Armed Services are chaired by Southern representatives. From 1947 to now, 9 of the 16 Southerners that have chaired the U.S. Senate Committee of Armed Services have been Southern, and from 1941 to present, 7 out of the 19 senators that have chaired the U.S. Senate Committee on Foreign Relations have been Southern, more than any other region of the United States. One can look at the U.S.'s foreign policies through the years to see how the South has affected our nation's actions. One example can be seen with Senator Richard Russell of Georgia, who was a leading internationalist in the 1950s and defended cuts to the Marshall Plan and NATO from Midwestern senators. These actions, as you can tell, are examples of American exceptionalism, and are probably due to the South's pride in its military tradition. As a result, Southerners are more likely to be willing to demonstrate the U.S.'s power in the world for this reason. However, American exceptionalism is not the only reason for Southerners' views on foreign policies. As we know, Southerners tend to be more religious than their non-Southern counterparts, and this can be best exemplified in the U.S.'s support for Israel. In recent years, Southern evangelicals and Southern Baptists have become some of the strongest supporters of Israel. Many have raised money for the country, and this year, when congressmen visited Israel on a trip paid for by the American Israeli Education Foundation and other pro-Israeli groups, 60 out of the 81 congressmen were Southern. The reason for this is because many Southern Christians see support for Israel rooted in the Bible. As one Southern Baptist leader said, "God blesses those who bless the Jews, and God curses those who curse the Jews." While America has participated more in foreign policy in recent years, at the same time it has gotten the image of being uncooperative with the world community. The South is also partially responsible for this. Many Southerners have been antagonistic towards the UN, as can be seen in 2005 when Texas Representative Ron Paul introduced a bill for the U.S. withdrawal from the United Nations, and 3 of the 4 co-sponsors of the bill were Southern. One of the harshest critics of the UN was the late North Carolina Senator Jesse Helms, who was known for blocking UN payments to the organization. In his most damning quote, the senator said, "A United Nations that seeks to impose its presumed authority on the American people without their consent begs for confrontation and eventual U.S. withdrawal." Such antagonistics towards the UN are no doubt due to American exceptionalism. This could be due to the fact that Southerners might see the world community as trying to impose its will on an exceptional group of people, much in the same terms as the North trying to impose its will on the South. Policies that have gotten the U.S. in trouble with the world community in recent years include the invasion of Iraq, which had the highest support in the South and was started by George W. Bush, who many saw as being a hyper-Southern president, and the U.S.'s support for Israel. As mentioned earlier, the South's support for Israel is due heavily to religious reasons. However, the South's support could also be due to the fact that it feels a special connection with Israel, in the sense that it's a country made up of exceptional people who are seeking to defend their way of life from outside influences. As you can see, The South, more than any other region, has exerted the greatest influence on the United States' foreign policy. Whether it be foreign aid, military strategy, or Middle Eastern politics, the South, more than any other region, has left the largest imprint. Whether this is good or bad for the country as a whole is a whole other debate. Nevertheless, it is ironic that a region that is often seen as being so isolated from the world has had the greatest effect on it.